to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
Once you've accepted your flaws, no one can use them against you.
And Dale Hummel.
A positive mindset is more than just a tagline. It changes the way we behave.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, I have a lot of current events today.
Well, then just get with it.
I don't even know where to start. How about we go back to a quote from Trump? He said it best. If we do not have a border, we do not have a country. Can we agree with this?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And think about the specialist Bishop Evans of the Texas National Guard who loses his life as he jumps into the Rio Grande to save two illegal immigrants' lives that turns out the Texas Rangers tell us they were drug smugglers. You know why the Texas National Guard is even on the border?
Because they're open. That's why.
Yeah, it's open. Because of the federal government, which is their constitutional duty to protect the borders and keep us a solvent country, is not doing it because our buddy Joe Biden. I cannot believe how this continues to happen. And I know it's an old story and we've talked about it, but it still overwhelms me. I put this person's life, Bishop Evans' life, along with many from fentanyl deaths, Afghan losses, and to some degree, all the life that's being lost in Ukraine, right on Biden's shoulders for all of the policy issues that we have through his administration. The Trump policies he's pulled back, the executive orders he's put in place, all of these things. And what is shocking to me, this has just gone too far. The decisions that this person we have as our president, that I think all cognitive ability to logic and think through situations is totally gone, absolutely affect life or death situations of people. Lives are being lost because of his policy. And yet we continue, and I don't have a solution on a way out until the next election.
There's nothing new there.
But doesn't it sadden you if you stop and think about it? That we could put, as a country, that we're ignorant enough, the populace is ignorant enough to put a man like that in office.
I don't know where you've been the last 2 years. We've been over this like 1,000 times.
Yeah, but it seems like it's like a news cycle. It's crap.
This is we current events, Dale. Current.
Yeah, well,
I need to define what current is for you?
It's nothing different than whether it's Fox News or CNN or whatever it is. All of a sudden, something horrific happens. We cover it for 5 minutes and then it's gone. No, that's bullshit. We are going to bring this up because it is an issue. And if you don't bring it up, it just goes away. No, the border is still wide open. We're going to feel impacts from this for decades, even if we could stop it right now. And that's ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to go on to something else. Let's go to something more current for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, I heard a poll, not a poll like last week's episode we did, but just a poll that talked about 71% of the younger generation. I don't know what that is defined as, but probably younger than me, maybe younger than you, Ryan. I know we're not going to talk about a lady's age, but maybe younger than you, would rather quit work than go back and work in the office like pre-COVID. They're just going to quit.
71%?
Yep, 71% would rather quit if they have to go back to the office to work.
That's got to be like the people just getting out of college. That's got to be. I mean,
yes, and that level, this is where the state of the United States is right now. And that is a sad place to be.
No, I will agree. That's bad. I will say that is bad. There's no
just
doubt about
while all these bad things are happening. You know my new hero, right? I have a new hero every couple weeks.
I'm assuming this is Elon Musk again.
Oh, it is. And Ryan and I have talked about this a little bit. The fact that he spent 30, 40 billion plus leveraged another pile of money to basically buy Twitter. And I understand he has a lot of money, but he's, for the most part, leveraged everything he has plus some to take over Twitter. I don't know. I assume he's looked at it from a lot of angles. I don't personally think it's a great business move. I don't know that it's a terrible one, but I can't wrap my head around how that was a positive business move. And I want to believe he did this for the better good of freedom of speech. Ryan, you're probably going to try to prove me wrong on that.
I'm just going to tell you that I don't tweet. Like, I look at Twitter at least every day because basically, and all that is on my Twitter feed anymore is politics and porn stars, which both interest me. So, I mean, I do go and look, but like,
would you not say that's because those are the ones you interact with their statement, that because the algorithms have pushed you that way?
No, I'm telling you, like, I think it's more politics and porn people than anybody else. I'm just being real honest because, like, I don't even follow a lot of these people, but I do not know how the man thinks that he's going to recoup his $43 billion investment. I hope he does. I hope he's got some genius plan. I mean, whatever. And he figures it out. He's obviously not made poor business choices to be able to have $43 billion to afford Twitter. So I'm hoping the guy can pull it out. I do not think the man did it how you have him built up in your mind just for the sake of democracy. I don't think anybody risked $43 billion
would that not be
for the sake of democracy.
If he did
that's not why he did it.
But if he did, that would be the single largest win.
So we went on to something current, and now Dale is delusional. So, but
yes. Would that not be the biggest freedom of speech move in the 21st century? If this happens and he did it for the right, even if he didn't do it for the right reasons, if that's an outcome, that is huge. Somebody had to do this. And I am so happy that somebody did. I understand Truth Social and the Trump Network, and Ryan, you tell me it's not going well, and I can't. I've not been on there. I need to get.
It's not going well. I'm just telling you that much right now.
Well, if that's not going well, I don't know that he could take over Facebook or Instagram or any of those others. The fact that he jumped in and is doing something, I have a great deal of respect for that, and I appreciate it. So, Elon, I'm sure he listens every week, Ryan.
Oh, duh.
So I'm thanking him publicly right now.
Good. I'm glad you got.
You know what's good about this, though? You want to know one of the just about as good as the freedom of speech? It has these crazy left upside down.
No, it does do that. It has. There's no doubt that is happening.
Yes, and it's amazing to me. They love it when it was I'm going to say, just canceling and censoring the conservatives. You didn't get to hear anything about the Hunter Biden laptop or Hillary's emails or any time that a conservative wanted to get a message out, it just got shut down. The algorithms either damped it, they kicked the conservatives off, whatever it is. And now these are the same people that come out and they're so worried about fake news being put out and things like that. Hypocritical maybe comes to mind is where I'm at on that one.
I think the whole, like, I do not think that the mainstream media by and large puts out a lot of fake news. I think they do not report all of the news. If it's something they want to suppress, they just act like it doesn't exist. I don't think they make up things and put them out there for the most part. Okay,
I can agree with that, but they damn sure ignore things they should.
I completely think they ignore and they suppress information and all that, and that's how they, drive their narrative. Yes, I agree with all that. And then if there is a piece of news that helps them ruin the Republicans in that news cycle, then they just drive that home. Yeah, I get all that. I don't think they put a whole lot of fake news out there. I mean, in the height of the Hillary Clinton-Trump election, when, the WikiLeaks guy and all that stuff was going strong, Twitter was where he would release all that stuff. And so I don't know if you consider that fake news. I don't know. I know that there was a whole lot of things on Twitter back then that probably not so much truth in them. But the whole thing is like, I think that Americans should be able to go on whatever place they want to find information, whether it is Twitter or Facebook or Truth Social, the newspaper or, Fox, CNN. And I think that you always need to kind of judge for yourself. And if you question something, research it more. That's what being an informed American adult is about. If you believe everything you read or hear from anyone, then you're really a dumbass. So let Twitter be free speech. I'm not talking about hate speech. I'm talking about free speech. Like, I don't think white people should get to go on there and say horrible, disgusting things about every other race. I don't think black people should be able to do that either, whatever. Free speech, yes. I don't know about hate speech, but I also think that the American public's got to get back to actually putting a little effort into what they believe, like digesting the information, figuring it out, doing a little research. I think that's why we have a person like Biden in the White House. It's because Americans don't do that anymore. They just listen, or they read and they say, okay, Trump's evil, Biden's a nice guy. I'll vote for Biden.
Ryan, that summarizes it perfectly.
That's how that happened.
Yes, that is exactly right, and it's very frustrating. All it is about is you simply think for yourself.
Right.
How can we not? How can someone think they're going to get along in life or be successful if they don't think for themselves?
I don't know.
Unfortunately,
like that is the problem.
That is. Where did this come through?
Lazy.
The
people
woke
are lazy.
Crap and maybe.
I think people are lazy.
That's nice. Are you trying to offend some of our listeners?
No, I'm not trying to offend them, but I will tell you, and I'm not trying to offend young kids or people younger than me or whatever, but if you just will observe life and people and situations, it is quite obvious that the younger generations have a problem with work ethic. I will not say they are lazy, but they have a problem with work ethic.
No, I am. It appears that way. Not everybody, and let's hope that.
I'm not saying there is nothing in life that encompasses everybody. I'm saying a larger portion of the population than not. The younger you get, the bigger problem they have with work ethic.
Agreed.
I don't think that really has any effect on the people that are listening to this podcast, because we're all involved in the livestock industry and it takes a great deal amount of effort and work ethic to be successful. So no, I don't think this is valid to most people listening here. But in the real world, I think it's very valid.
And I think those juniors that are going through the program and those that have went through it, I can attribute a lot of the success right now. The good. Let's take a positive spin, kind of like a circle back moment here.
Ugh.
If this is accurate, what you and I believe, the work ethic and the motivation and the drive and all those things that we get through what we're doing in the junior livestock industry, guess what? When they go out there and compete against those contemporary younger generation that may be just a bit lazy, this puts them way ahead of the curve. So let's take the positive side of it.
No, I agree with that. I think everyone that grew up in this program had a little bit of an advantage when they went into a job interview, or when they got that job, they could prove themselves more, whatever, than other people that didn't. Now it's like gonna be night and day difference. It's not that you've got a little edge. You can like beat the dog shit out of them.
I agree completely. Absolutely 100%.
But then you yelled at me for calling people lazy earlier. So that's fine.
There's I think we lost that group at episode 2 or 3. I'm not sure where it was. Maybe episode 1. I'm not sure where it began. So I'm going to go on to something even a bit more positive, I hope, to a certain degree, and it reminded me of something this just that I haven't seen for a while. I had the privilege to judge a show in Oregon this past weekend. So I go into Portland. I want to take time, and I did not have time to go visit the autonomous zone and visit with those business owners. I flew in and out quick. I didn't have time to do it. I feel bad that I didn't schedule things differently, but I was not able to do that. But I was reminded that, and I remember this in California as well, Ryan, and I'm sure you can jump in on this, and you've seen it as well. But when I was driving out of Portland to more into Central Oregon, it was about 3 hours south where I was judging the show. It shocked me, and I knew it was there. I just had forgotten about it. But any public ground that you build a structure, a tarp, a tent, whatever, the tent cities, all these things, or along the roadside, you take a 1960s motorhome and you park it literally right along the road, and you decide to live in it for 5 years. And I can remember going down Highway 1 or Highway 101 down the coast of California. Right between this beautiful highway and the ocean, there's just lines, rows of these older mobile homes that people decide, or buses, they just pull off the side of the road and they live there. It is absolutely shocking to me how this continues to be possible. I'm sure because of our politicians in Illinois, if we had better scenery or a better climate, we'd probably have the same thing here. Ryan, I bet you don't get a lot of this in Texas.
Are you on drugs today?
I didn't. I know I have not. Remember, we were going to get that anxiety medication.
Wait, you're telling me that
yet.
people just pull a bus over and decide to live there?
You have not seen this.
No.
You need to experience this. And I'm talking with a good friend of mine out there, Rick Clampy. I used to coach with him years ago.
This
and
is in Oregon or California?
Yeah, in Oregon and in California. And he says, well, it's a lot less now than it was earlier. He's out in the countryside. I would call the country. He has some neighbors, but for the most part, out in the country, his exit, he's a couple miles off the interstate. And at his exit, there was a little area that up until recently was completely full of tents that they'd put up. Think about, remember I've talked about Venice Beach? I'm a little nervous to even go down there at dark. One of the most beautiful places, I'm assuming, on the planet when there isn't a bunch of homeless camps set up along the beach. But think of it this way. If you can set up a camp there in Venice Beach and put up a tarp or whatever, why couldn't you just build a nice little like mini home there? Would that not be allowed? I'm all in. I would love that kind of view and not have to pay for it. That'd be great. I'm in.
I had no idea this exists.
It's there. It is absolutely there. Maybe some of our listeners can clarify. Maybe I'm being delusional, but it is incredible to me. And again,
in Oregon, where you went, you're driving down the road and there's just lines of tarps and old buses and whatever broken down vehicles, like right after the other on the side of the highway. And this is where people, like, their bus stopped on the side of the road. Okay, we can't go any further, so we're going to live here.
You would think right at first maybe it stopped. And this is more right in Portland and the outskirts, more so than when I get further away. But absolutely. And I remember it so clearly on that coastal highway in California. And these are right in front of multi-million-dollar homes. And I've been aware of this. It just reminded me when I was down there, and my friend Rick says it's better now than it was a year or two ago. So, and I feel bad. I'm sure there are many homeless people that truly need help. I understand that, but it's still hard for me to completely understand.
Yeah, I have no idea. No, I just saw something the other day that in Los Angeles, like the death rate among homeless has gone up almost 50% in 2022. I don't know what's
the fentanyl issue.
I don't know what's up. I didn't, but yeah. So I mean, I know the homeless have problems, but I literally did not know you can just like put up a tent on the beach and they can't make you move, or you can drive a school bus or something there and just whatever. Yeah.
I will post a picture. I don't know if they'll like that on Facebook, but we could put something up. I took a lot of pictures there at Venice Beach, and that's the best example. And it is unbelievable to the point.
When did you go to Venice Beach?
We talked about this on. I've been there. I go about whenever I'm in California, I will go by and for that reason.
California is a very large state, sir. You just like go to California.
I was there not that long ago. I know we talked about it.
Okay.
And I couldn't even tell you what I was there. Well, the last time I guess that I can think of is when we went excavating for shark teeth, Chase and I and Dylan.
Oh, that was last summer.
Yep.
Okay.
That maybe I've been there since then, but I remember that and it was very eye-opening. That was the first time that I think Chase had been there since he was a very young child. Very eye-opening. I have one more thing. I know we're going long on current events, but we have to take this up.
Oh.
This is not going to appeal to those unicorn, butterfly, rainbow loving listeners. No.
Troy, you're out.
Troy's out. Troy is so far out on this one. There's no doubt in my mind when we put Putin up against the wall, we threaten his power or his loss of power. He has done everything to allude to the fact that he's not afraid of their special forces using some form of localized nuclear weapons. I get it. I don't like his saber rattling. I don't like his threats. I don't know how much weight to put into them. But if I analyze him as a person and the control that he has and how he's put himself in control basically forever and what he's doing to try to get back to the old Soviet Union and bringing Ukraine back in. He'd bring them all back in if he could. Just analyzing his mindset. If he's ever threatened where he will no longer have control or he's in a losing situation, I am absolutely convinced he will go the nuclear option. That concerns me. That scares me. All of those things. Now, do I think he'll do it just to get Ukraine if he's not losing his power? No, I don't think so. I don't think he's crazy, but he's crazy about power. So if we ever get to that point where he does, all while he's saying these things and threatening us, he tests a nuclear weapon that has a range of 11,000 miles. They call it Satan II. He runs this test last week.
What's Satan 1?
All while Biden has a test scheduled that he cancels because he doesn't want to provoke anything from Russia. So he cancels our little test. Our nuclear weapons, Ryan, are 50 years old, and we've done very little to update any of these things. So think about this for a moment. We have Sleepy Joe at the wheel, and I'm confident he is not prepared to respond to Putin using any form of nuclear weapon. I don't think that there's been any plan.
Hold on, Dale. Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Please.
You are worried about Biden responding to a nuclear threat? Biden can't even decide what kind of ice cream he likes because he's afraid to offend somebody, so he gets a chocolate vanilla swirl.
Exactly. And yet we are your life, my life, the unicorn listeners out there, even Troy's life, all is we have it in his hands to a certain degree. And I mean, that is not something you can decide in a couple seconds, especially him. We could have avoided all this if we'd have kept energy independent, if we would have kept a stronger position on the world front. I don't think he would even be in Ukraine. We talked about this, but we are in the situation we are in. And right now, Oz, Biden, whoever the hell's in charge, I'm just not real convinced how they plan to respond.
I'm not arguing with you.
That's the last I want to bring up of negative. We're going to try to stay positive the rest of the time. With that, Ryan, do you have any BTR JLA top 10s that you would like to announce or sponsors?
Well, before we even get into that, I do have one other piece of current event that I think is positive. So,
okay, go.
Well, I think so. But anyway, a new book came out, and it's kind of it's basically about camel toe, but it's also a little bit about the Biden administration. And so, long story short, all the Dems are freaking out about the midterm elections and all this other stuff, and they are now thinking that the only thing that might save them is if Joe will either announce that he's not running for president in 2024, or he will say that he's picking a new vice president.
That's positive. I can find positive in that.
So that is what is going on in the news cycle right now. That is what the Dem leadership is pushing Joe to do. Either say you're not running again, or if you're not going to not run again, you have to tell him that you're going to pick a new vice president. Because it has gotten so bad that he's so bad and she's so bad that the combination together, they think it's going to take down, not only that will they not win, but they will be not just beaten in the midterms. I think they have resolved themselves that they're going to lose the control of both the House and the Senate. But they are thinking right now it is going to be like a bloodbath of epic proportions. Even Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren is out there preaching, we got to do something.
Isn't that funny when a nickname sticks so much you can't think of the real name?
Yeah, I was like, I know her nickname.
That's success.
Yeah,
that works.
So I do have a top 10, and I'm gonna be real honest with y'all. We're getting close to the end of April, and I just started reading these top 10s and whatever, and there was no organization into it. So when we start in May, I'm going to start over, and I'm going to go all around, and then the 4 national species, and then we'll do the whatever. And so, it will be organized so everybody will eventually get a shot, because right now I'm just, picking something and whatever, and it's not organized, because I didn't know this was going to be a big hit. But, the kids like it, so. Anyway, I get to the start of May, there will be organization of this, so everybody, because I've had several people, well, you haven't said anything about, novice, whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, you're right. But I eventually, we will get to it. So there will be organization. But I'm going to read out the top 10 senior goats, because I don't know if I've done any seniors. And Dale will be very happy, because this top 10. I don't think there's anybody from Texas or Oklahoma in it, so that'll make Dale the most happy.
We're starting to have shows in the North.
And well, there's not anybody in the North either. It's all kind of,
gosh.
but, well, anyway, first place is Colby Wilson from Georgetown, Delaware. So that's cool.
Wow.
There is somebody from Texas in second, Casey Cleggs from League City. Third is Hadley Owens from Vernal, Utah. Fourth is Hannah Walker from Minden, Utah. Fifth is Bailey Rogers from Klamath Falls, Oregon. Sixth is Gillian Steffen from Wiggins, Colorado. Seventh is Zachary Moore of Vacaville, California. I don't think that's how you say that, but that's how it's spelled. But Zachary Moore. Next is Jordan Ash of Lancaster, Ohio. Grant Bell of Nampa, Indiana. And then, I am going to screw this name up so bad. Bella Boynton, Boynton, of Gilroy, California. So, that is that. Not many. That was not my dog this time, by God. I don't have a dog, and my parents are home, and they have their dog. So, y'all can blame Dale this time. Anyway.
Clifton. It's all Clifton.
So, there you go, Dale. There's lots of people from Coast that you just visited. And
I recognize some of those names. That's great. That's awesome. I'm glad. I think as we get more shows going, I think we're going to continue to see a pretty big spread across the country.
We awesome. Had shows in 15 states last weekend.
Wow.
Just to let you know.
That is good.
I mean, I don't know exactly how many shows we had. I think it was over 50, but we had shows in 15 states last weekend alone. So, yeah. I do want to highlight Crownstone Equipment as a BTR JLA National Award sponsor. They have 5 locations in Adams County, Frederick, Hagerstown, Lancaster, and York, and a 6th one on the way in Reading. Crownstone Equipment is your source for all of your equipment needs, whether you're looking for construction, agricultural, landscaping equipment. They've got you covered with brands like Bobcat, Toro, Stihl, Echo, and more. From purchasing to renting, parts to service, Crownstone Equipment's rock-solid customer service is your one-stop shop for all your equipment needs. We really, really appreciate them for doing this, and we are very grateful for them and all of our BTR JLA sponsors. And if you're in Region 1, Region 2, or Region 4, and you'd like to be a region sponsor, call me.
They don't have your number.
Yes, it's on everything.
Okay.
My number is everywhere.
Got it.
It is on the BTR JLA Facebook. You put it on the podcast Facebook because you didn't want yours up there. It's on my Facebook.
I believe that calling is even better than texting when it comes to trying to get a hold of you.
No, it's not. Texting is the way to do it. But if it is for a sponsor for those regions to get those kids full scale awards program, I will talk to you on the phone. Because I am very, very worried that 3 of these regions, everybody's going to be happy, and these other regions, these kids aren't going to have they're going to have an awards program, but they're not going to have what the other ones have because we couldn't get anybody to step up and sponsor. So, that's that.
It's going to happen now, and it will happen. I have confidence.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Thank you again to the sponsors and Ryan for putting together that top 10. I do think it means a lot to those exhibitors out there, and that's kind of the core of where we're at and what we want to do and make this industry better. Main topic today, power struggle. Who has control? Who should have control? And I would like to start out that the title should not imply that we need to fire all show managers, Ryan. That is not it.
That has nothing to do with anything that.
This is going to be all about just trying to include more, in my opinion, more exhibitor input. How's that?
Yes, that's kind of the whole purpose of the topic. And
this has been on my list for a year and a half.
No, it has not been on your list.
It has been on the list for a year and a half.
Yes, the list that I came up with.
Oh, that's right. It was one you texted me.
Yeah, the list that I came up with. Yeah, that this is, again, one topic. And I don't know why you've been worried about this topic. This topic is not that controversial. It's not. Here's the thing.
No, I was not worried about myself. I was worried about you cutting your throat that you're going to offend a show manager that will never hire you.
Well, if they're skin is so thin they can't talk about that, they're probably not going to hire me anyway.
Good point. Good point.
But what this is about, and it's about all aspects of show management. And again, I think this goes back to the thing that while this industry is great and grand and wonderful, and obviously we both love it, we're very passionate about it, or we wouldn't be doing this podcast or trying to implement and change anything. What has worked since the exception of this deal without a whole lot of change. And while it works well, it could work better. And
well put.
That is what this topic is about.
I like that. And you know, there are so many factors that come into play, from how a show ring is set up to the specifics of running a show, to the rules, to who we hire as a judge. And you know what? Ryan is right. And maybe this is an attribute to our industry, or a positive reflection upon our industry. It has, for the most part, been the same for a very, very long time. And that means it is so strong that you can do that. Not many things can withstand not changing, but that doesn't mean that we can't do better.
Right. And that's the thing. I'm not saying completely throw everything out and start something completely different and new, but there are aspects that could definitely take in consideration the exhibitors and the family's opinions more. And again, I go back to this. This is the only industry that I know that has sustained itself this well for this long, that basically doesn't go with the principle that the customer is always right. Now, that's just how it is.
Now, the good thing is, I'm going to pat you and I on the back here, and it probably maybe had nothing to do with us. But let's start with the different segments, and we'll kind of go through each of them. But I'd like to start with one, and I'm going to reflect back. And a lot of what Ryan comes up with topics, or I occasionally toss a topic in there, is an experience that we've had recently. And I talked about being in Portland and going to judge a show this past weekend. I had the privilege to go and judge in Roseburg, Oregon. And this particular show, I did the goat Saturday night and the cattle on Sunday. I show up at just before 5:00 Saturday evening to sort the goats, and Sam Mattingly was judging the sheep, just finishing up the lamb show. And as I approached the ring, Ryan, I was honestly blown away by the amount of effort that went into play to make this experience for kids. And I asked some of the people there, and they said, well, these are some of the things that you and Ryan have talked about on the podcast. And they went and implemented just about all of those things, Ryan. And that is amazing. I visited with Sam after the goat show, and he had that same feeling that when he walked into that, and Ryan, you can probably explain this better. When you walk into that environment as a judge where everything is right, and we'll talk about those things, from the lighting to the surface, to the ring size, to the help, to the sound system, all of those things are so positive. And even background music with a DJ playing popular songs, and just things that really, they make an effort to make it better for that exhibitor. It puts you as a judge in a mindset that you're going to give everything you can. And I think that in turn funnels down to that exhibitor of having a positive experience, and they want to go on to that. They're excited. Even if they didn't place well in their class, they were still excited about being there, and they want to go on to that next show. So it's interesting to me, those things happen.
Well, I think more important than that, going on to the next show, they want to come back to your show.
Yes, and this one was I'm going to give them a shout out. If anybody out there gets a call to judge, or you're in that area, can exhibit it there, the Umpqua Valley Junior Classic in Roseburg, Oregon. I'm sure they have one every year. I've not been more impressed, from the national anthem and the flag in the beginning all the way through. Everything was done well. And I think part of it started with the fact that they went out and found donations and support for that show. And that's never easy. And sometimes that's a big hurdle that people don't get over. But while we're on that, Ryan, let's jump in. And if you don't mind, how do we set up a show ring? What type of environment do we need to have in play there?
Well, I mean, whoever's running the show needs to take into consideration on show ring is, very few times have I ever gone to a show in any capacity as an exhibitor, a judge, a helper, or whatever, where I said, you know what, this show ring is too big. I mean,
yep.
Just very, very few. I mean, and there has been a couple, but very few times. And so, and not at the big major shows. They're not limited on space and stuff like that. But like a lot of these jackpot shows, budget comes into play, and so they have to pick venues in their budget, and there's only so much space. But I think that is the biggest thing, is making sure that it is adequate size to fit the class sizes that you expect to have. And then the other thing that I think makes flow go much better in a show ring is if you have an entry on one side and an exit on the other, and if you can't do that, at least have an entry gate and an exit gate where they're not coming in and out of the same one. Those would be my two biggest things.
And those are huge. And I even see ring size come into play at the state fair level, and the in and out and one end to the other. Those, obviously, ring size budget's going to control some of that. But the entering on one side and out the other, those are things for the most part we have control over that aren't that difficult, that make a big difference. I have one that I want to hit, Ryan. I have several of them listed here that bothers me, and maybe because maybe it's just something that hits me harder. But most of the shows I go to, whether it's a county show or a jackpot or state fair level, whatever it may be, more times than not, lighting in that show ring, in lighting where you can truly evaluate those stock, especially black animals, and get that dimensional look to them. I can remember to go into so many shows that even when I'm at Houston, Ryan, where we sat this year on one side of the arena, if you tried to look across, you had that big door open and the glare was coming in. But I can go to so many of these open-sided pole barns or barns where we have a door open and the light's coming in and the rest of the barn's kind of dark. And if you try to look that direction at stock, you just can't see them at all. I can use an example. And again, budget's going to inhibit this. And this is the first time I've ever seen this. At that show in Oregon this weekend, they had scaffolding up over top of the ring with lights coming down from the scaffolding in addition to what was already established in the building. This was something extra they set up. And I never once remember holding my hand up to shade to shade out the glare of anything else coming in, and you could actually see the livestock. So maybe this is just me, but that is huge, that a judge can actually evaluate. We have the proper lighting where they can evaluate things well. And there are facilities that incorporate that into it. It's already there, or for some reason it just works. But there's a lot of them that it doesn't work, and that one's a hard fix. So I don't have a lot of solution unless you have that kind of budget that you can work on it in addition to what's already in the structure.
Yeah, I mean, lighting is a big deal. I agree with that there's a lot of barns and show rings that don't have adequate lighting, or like you said, lights coming in from one side and all this other stuff. But like you said, I don't know how much control, unless you have a large budget or you can find a sponsor that will bring in other lighting, control over that. And so that's what makes it more challenging.
And I would have not even thought about bringing other lighting until I saw this at this show and that it actually worked and worked well. The next one, I'm going to toss it right to you because I know this impacts your day, and I know it impacts those people that come to watch and hopefully the exhibitors as well. But what about the quality of the sound system?
I tell people all the time, I've rarely met a mic I don't like, but it is very, I guess for me, it is very challenging to keep my head in a good headspace and all this going when the mic does not work, because I feel like, and I think this will resonate with most people that judge, that is the only way you have of portraying what you're trying to do to the people out there. And so you want them to be able to hear you. And if they can't hear you, or it's muffled, or, it's cutting in and out, even a word, when one word gets cut out, it's an important word sometimes. And so I do know that, like, people do listen. Maybe if it's just their own animal, they don't listen to what you say about all the animals, but most people do, like, try to tune in on what you say about their animal. And again, if they can't say they're fifth or sixth, and they thought they should have won a class or whatever, and they can't hear what you're saying, then then they leave there with no explanation, and they're just angry or disappointed,
and rightfully so,
or whatever. And again, you may not make them 100% happy, but when you describe that animal, and hopefully, at least when I try to always say something positive, but I also try to explain why that animal is where they are in terms of this one wasn't good enough here, so that's why it's there. If that resonates with them, they say, yeah, that one could be better there. And because I talk to the crowd, I see the reactions on people's faces all the time when I'm talking about their animals. So I know when they acknowledge, yeah, that's right, or, stuff like that. If something you say resonates about their animal and they can understand it, maybe they don't still like the placing, I think that helps a lot. And that's why I concentrate so hard on what I say about the livestock. And when the mic or the sound system is not up to par, it's not good. And I can say the same thing for the fact that when you're calling the classes, if they can't hear you in the back, somebody's not going to hear, somebody's going to be behind, somebody's going to either miss their class or maybe miss their class. And again, it's not a positive experience for that exhibitor or that family.
Agreed completely. And it just, it is so beneficial when you have that mic and you don't have that dead spot where you've got to keep fighting the squealing, and they can actually hear you out in the audience. All of those things, Ryan, come into play, and it's a mindset with the person judging, and it impacts everybody around there. So, I understand sometimes it's expensive maybe to bring in a mic system that you need to, and you've got to go out and get those sponsors. But for those of you in control, that power struggle, that is one of them that I would put fairly high on my priority list to make sure we funnel dollars that direction. The next one that I find huge, and we sometimes adapt a little bit what animals we take or what we're going to do according to what surface we're showing on. When I say surface, the surface of the show ring, and I can use an example. A few years ago, one of our first times we went to Arizona National, we get into the ring or look at the ring, and it's really deep, relatively loose sand, not a hard packed sand, but loose sand. And you get out there and those goats are sinking in it, so they all look a little bit smaller framed. The judge is trying to walk all day around in this, and you know it's just killing them. But we made the suggestion that year that, hey, maybe you need to change this to such and such, and boom, they did it. They responded, and those in power there decided that it is better to listen to the exhibitors, and let's make that change. But I think in a lot of situations, we get into a lot of county shows or jackpots, Ryan, where it's a hard limestone base. That's going to bring out every structural flaw in a pig or a calf or whatever it may be. Some of them we get into that are shavings based, and one of my favorites is maybe those pelleted pine horse bedding that you wet down that we use in our stalls a lot. That seems to form a great base, but again, expensive. But anything we can do where it's not too dusty, not too difficult to get around, I believe that, and I'm going to continue to fall back because I've never hit a show that just hit everything how you'd want it to be done. But it was a dirt arena that was somewhat packed with a layer of shavings that had been wet down prior to the show just right, where there was no dust. You could truly evaluate how those animals move. They still look good out on that surface or those shavings. It's all good. Those things make a difference. And I don't know, Ryan, what your preference is in terms of each species may be a little bit different, but it does play a role in it.
I think that bedding is unless you're at a venue that has some weird rule about you can't bring in other bedding or you have to clean up bedding that's brought in. And there are venues like that, I do know. But unless that, bedding is probably the easiest thing to control. And why I know that those pelleted shavings that you're talking about are expensive, I think you could go to several feed stores or, supply companies and get them to donate you some bags pretty easily. And I think as a whole, that's probably the best surface. I mean, I could design out different things where, it would be 100% perfect in an ideal situation or whatever. But I would think that no matter what, if you could put that layer of packed down pelleted shavings on the top, so that way they don't sink, Judges can see the feet. All those things. It's not difficult to walk on as difficult. That's probably the best deal. And I do think that even though they are expensive, I think it would be easier to get people to donate bags of shavings and a lot of other things, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Nope, I would agree completely. These others that have to do with the ring environment, we've talked about a little bit before, but I've only had this happen at a few shows, but I tell you what, I really like it. And Ryan, I don't know that I've discussed it a lot with you. I think I talked about it on the podcast once, but background music, a popular track or a DJ, I shouldn't say a DJ, just somebody running that background music so they can turn it down or shut it off when the classes are being called or the judge is talking in the microphone. But avoiding that dead silence, that uncomfortable silence that sometimes you feel when you're out there in the ring as an exhibitor or a judge or whatever it may be, it lifts the whole atmosphere. It's good. I don't see any downside with it whatsoever.
Oh, I do.
Oh, what? Not loud, not spooking the animals. Don't go to that extreme.
Okay, well, I'm just going to call your best friend out, Cherie, on this, because she, she just loves that nonsense. And I think if it's handled well, and it's at a low volume, and it's not something that's, crazy, I think it's fine.
Yeah, don't go to where it's going to spook the animals or you can't talk to the person next to you.
That's the whole thing. You've got to have somebody in control of it that is aware, because there are, and it may be 1 out of 100, but animals that might come in that ring that like, yeah, they don't like the beating of drums or any music whatsoever at all. And so, I see all the positive things that you see. I also have been when Cherie was running the music and it did not
be nice.
go well. And so I think that
it may have happened without the music.
Okay.
Most of these animals hear music at home in their barn every day. And
I agree. I agree they do. And that's why I said it may be 1 out of 100 animals. I think that's all great. And I agree with most of your saying. I'm saying whoever would you let me finish?
I love it. No, we can't be negative on this one. You got to be
No,
positive.
you're going to let me finish or I'm just going to get really angry.
Go ahead. I want to bring up Louisville as well, that organ player that you like.
And that's great. Let me finish my thought.
Go.
Have someone with a brain and animal sense running the music, the selection of the music, and the volume of the music, and I think it's perfectly fine and a great idea.
I can accept that completely.
Got to take into consideration.
Are you saying Cherie did not have a person doing that? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying when you got a 10-year-old kid up there doing it, no, it's not a good idea.
Okay, the next one. And I can throw a couple together here. We've talked about this a lot, so we can just mention it. The start with the national anthem, and Ryan, you're spoiled because most Texas shows I've been to do that. Outside of Texas, it's not as common. We're seeing more and more of it. I absolutely love it. All good, great. And the last one, we did talk about this, is make sure to have ring help that has some livestock sense and they get it.
We had a whole podcast about that.
Yeah, we came up with 3, didn't we? Is how many we want in the ring. But somebody may not, if they hadn't listened to that one, just a brief summary, 3 people in the ring is not too many, as long as they're good. The judge doesn't need to be the one going out and trying to move, twist the tail of the calf, and think that's not ideal.
I agree.
In the real world. The next one, are you good with all the ring part and those that are in charge? Here's some of the things. Let's go to the rules, and you and I can summarize this pretty quickly. Those in charge, here's where you need to be, and we've said these things many times. I'll start it off, Ryan, and you can jump right in. If you cannot enforce it, do not.
One rule: the show starts at noon.
No, 2 or 3. If you cannot enforce, do not put it in the book.
I think that's the only thing that truly. And again, I don't know why every show manager in the world would not take that advice to heart and do it, because it's only going to complicate your life if you don't. And again, I'll give you a for instance. the Ohio pig circuit that's going on right now. They put in a rule that you can't paint pigs this year. I think they had like 360 at the first weekend, and they had somebody there check in, whatever. So if you've got somebody that can enforce that rule and you want that rule and you think that rule is important, by all means, get with it. But if you don't, it's just going to cause a problem. And again, I'm not against the painting of pigs. I think that if you can do it, and very few can do it really good, it looks cool and great and it enhances whatever. I don't care what the rule is. But if you're going to have the rule, enforce it. So kudos to them to having somebody putting a new rule in and making sure it's enforced. I think that's great. I think that needs to happen with all rules. And if you cannot, or even if you think, well, the whole logic behind rules that enforce themselves, no, that doesn't work. That does not work.
Not whatsoever. And Ryan, you're exactly, it's really that simple. If you cannot enforce it, do not put it in the book. If you have it in the book, enforce it. It's that simple. We all the exhibitors need to be on the same playing field. We have enough.
I'm not trying to interrupt you or anything, but like I want to put this out there. So, because this happens at a lot of shows. To me, like they will either say, "Hey, our rule says it's a 10-pound way back, a 5% way back, whatever it is, but we're not going to do it. But if you see one that's questionable, you let us know."
Great.
No, that's not that's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah,
if you're going to have that rule,
that's crazy.
Then you weigh back the top two or whatever it is. Don't look to me to be your rule enforcer as a judge.
Agreed completely.
And that is a real common instance that happens at probably more shows than not. They have a rule about weight in there. They don't do it. And maybe they don't ask every judge. But I'm telling you, I would say at least 40% of the shows that I judge, something like that is said. And I say the same thing. I said, I'm not going to do that. So that's a very simple example that happens more often than like painting pigs. So that's why I wanted to put it out there.
God, I'm all about the even playing field. And then this is what we're getting at here. We have enough unethical issues to deal with that separate those playing fair and those that don't play by the rules. You put more in place that you don't enforce, you're penalizing those that are self-enforcing and following the rules. And there is no reason to penalize those that are following the rules because you're unwilling to enforce something that you have in the book. And there's so many out there that are very brazen and willing to go way out there. That's not something that needs to be rewarded. Let's keep it even as we possibly can. It's never going to be even because we're going to have some that are always going to push the limits, but let's do what we can to foster an even playing field as best we can. So that is good. Ryan, the next one is, it could get a little more discussion. Hiring a judge.
Why did this more discussion? I don't.
How has it been done for 75 years?
A small group of people who are in charge of that show throw some names out and they pick one and they call it. And again, I'm not saying that doesn't work. Okay? Most times it's fine. I'm also saying that, and this is the thing that gets me riled up the most. I don't think you'll have a lot of people complain, like exhibitors say, oh, well, the lighting could have been better at that show. Or, that surface sucked. Yeah, you might have some. There's going to be most people that are going to, but a lot of people aren't going to have an opinion on that. Everybody there pretty much is going to have an opinion on the judge. And the amount of shows or show managers that take into consideration opinions other than that small handful that they've been talking to since the inception of that show or since they've been in that role or whatever, I'd say it's way less than 1%. And the fact that they're not getting any feedback from the exhibitors and the families who pay the entry fees to make that show happen about the one thing that pretty much, and the only thing that pretty much everybody there is going to have a very strong opinion about, is just absolute insanity to me.
Agreed. Completely. It's that simple. And the difficulty maybe lies in that we sometimes expect the people in charge to know everything about the industry, and those that are capable of sorting and making a positive
Those who
impact
sell
on those
animals in that
exhibitors.
area, those who don't. I get it.
Yeah,
They're not all going to know that. They're
no, but
not.
that's why if we brought some exhibitor input in, that obviously some of those do know those
That's
things.
my point right there.
It almost fixes itself by something simple.
They're not asking,
you can
though.
take out. No, they're not. But if we allow more exhibitor input, and I'm going to give some examples of how, but if we give more exhibitor input, all of a sudden you have people that are in the trenches that understand the political connections, tying A, B, and C together. So this is maybe not a good idea. Those that understand have shown to and understand what judges truly make a positive impact on those kids.
And let me put one other thing out there. That making a positive impact on those kids, that is very important. And on that note, and again, I'm just going to say it and offend people. There are some people that just judge shows because they get asked. They don't care about, if the kids or the families have a good time or anything like that. They got asked to judge the show, so they're going to do it. And that person may be a lovely human being, but when they're in the ring, they're dead, and it doesn't work. And another thing on this, there are, and I don't know any other way to say it. Not everybody is qualified to judge every level or every size of every show. That's just all there is to that. So you've got to know where you're at. I mean, are you going to have 100 head, jackpot show? Is this a state fair? Is this whatever? Because somebody told you that, Frida Thornbush did a good job at the county fair. That doesn't mean that person should be able to do the state fair or whatever. You've got to understand that there are levels where there are some people that are more than qualified to judge a show of a certain size and a certain level of competition. That does not make that person qualified to do them all. And you have got to know the difference, because I'm telling you, the larger and more important that show gets, they're never going to tell you no. Never. You call and they'll, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to be there. And they may not be as qualified as they need to be in that position. And that's just facts.
Agreed. And I want to take it even a bit further. I had a person at this last show, and I'm going to pat myself on the back here, Ryan, made the comment, and they're right, and doesn't necessarily need to be directed towards me, because I can be terrible on any given day if I'm out there and everything isn't going well, or something's in the back of my mind I'm thinking about I should be home doing. But he made the comment that there's a lot of people out there that can place livestock and somewhat justify it, but there's not as many that can do a good job placing livestock and make it a very positive experience for that exhibitor, irregardless of where they placed. And Ryan, I'm gonna put you up on a little bit of a pedestal here. And I probably shouldn't, but I can think about some of the shows that I've been at that you're judging, whether I'm judging the other ring or there for whatever reason. But those kids that end up 4th, 5th, 10th out of 10 in class, they come out of there for the most part. I'm not saying their parents, but that exhibitor, that kid comes out of there after having shown to you, for whatever reason, they're excited to have just been able to be in the ring and have that experience. And I think it's because the atmosphere that you create in terms of the chemistry with the exhibitors and the way you give them the attention they deserve. And unfortunately, it takes effort, and you're wore out at the end of the day after doing that. But that's a part of it. And again, we're asking a lot, because we struggle to find enough judges out there in the country that can go in there, sort the livestock, and professionally explain the differences. Now you throw one more thing on there that they need to make those kids feel really good about the activity they're in and make this better. But I think all of those things we talked about, the way we set up the ring, the help in the ring, all of these things come into play. And if we can tie that together, and Ryan put it very well, very few are going to complain about those other things, but I promise they all contribute. But this is where you're going to have the most complaints or opinions. Is what that judge is. And I can't expect a superintendent to know all of those things that the people in the trenches know and the political aspects that are coming into play. And they're worse now, in my opinion, than they've ever been.
I agree with that.
It's not the old school politics that your buddy might get second instead of third when it's close. It goes way beyond that, unfortunately. And there's one way to reel it in. You can't expect the superintendent to know, but if we allow more exhibitor influence or impact on those judges, that will correct itself over time. And I'm going to give an example on maybe how one way to do this. And I've talked with one of the national shows out there about doing this, and I think they're going to implement it. And once one does, the others are going to be forced to follow, because guess what? There's becoming enough shows now. People can pick and choose where they want to go. And if it's not an exhibitor-friendly show, and there's another one going on about that same time, guess which direction that exhibitor is going to go, I would think. So if it's a market show, let's keep it real simple. Let whoever's in charge, or that committee, or whoever has done this for many years, put a list of 4 together, or suggestions of four different judges they think are capable. List those 4 on your way ticket or the way card that exhibitor turns in, and they simply circle one. If that exhibitor has that input and they come back to that show next year under that judge, they're less likely to probably complain about it. And guess what? Over time, those judges that give those exhibitors a fair shake, a positive experience, and everything is going in the right direction, those are going to be asked to do more and more shows. I don't know that it's an immediate fix, but I am absolutely convinced it's the best path forward, and over time it will fix itself.
We've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I don't know if we've gone into it in depth enough, but especially right after major shows, I've had a bunch of people contact me about this. And here's the thing. I realize that whether you're a major show or state fair or jackpot show, you're putting on the show, you want to make sure that you have what you consider to be competent or capable judges. And granted, your opinion may not be the same as everyone's, but you need that peace of mind that the person that has been selected and put out there, you think will do a good job. And I think every show manager does need that. I also think that if you do just like that, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 on a list, let the exhibitors vote. It makes everyone be held accountable. And it improves everything. So if you're a show manager, you're getting a pat on the back because, by God, you gave exhibitors a voice. Not many shows do that. If you are a judge on that list, and whether you win or you don't, the vote, most people that do this want to do more shows. So they're like, hey, I made it to the top 5 or the top 3 or whatever. Maybe I didn't get this year, but if I continue to do a good job, maybe I will get more votes the next time. Cuts out on that, gets in the back of their mind, because right now there's nothing like that to change the way sorters think when they're out there. For the most part, they know how this deal works. Small group of people hire you. If you're in that group already, you're going to get hired more times than not. If you know the way to get in there, if you're a young person, or you try. This would be the only thing that holds judges accountable and truly, just like you said, Dale, lots of people can place animals and talk them professionally. Not many can make it one of those experiences where they're doing everything they can in their power to make sure everybody leaves there in a positive frame of mind. That is what changes the game right there.
And that takes effort. When at the end of the day, you're wore out.
I am wore out at every show. It doesn't matter if it's 100 or 1,000 head. And you know that more than anybody else, because you're the person that I talk to after every show. And if I'm not wore out, then I didn't do a good enough job. Because
no, you didn't put your heart and soul into
Right.
making that as good as you can for it. And you know what? That takes work, and it's easier to go out there and just go through the motions. And I'm going to say it right now, and I've got a lot of friends judging a lot of shows. I'm going to say more than not, we have judges going through the motions, and the more you do, sometimes you get complacent.
And it's
You
not,
don't
and
think
it's
about
not, it's not like they're just meaning to go through the motions.
No,
I don't think,
no, not at all.
But it is that way, and it is that, and I get that comment from people every single week. That more now than ever, it's just somebody standing out there placing animals and talking on the mic. And that
And I
right
get it.
there, that list, were people that are in that arena and have the experience that those kids have, vote, that changes that game completely. Because now you got to work for it. You don't have to work for it right now. Now you have to work for it. And what is wrong with working for it? Nothing. People are going to say that this is a commercial for me to get to judge every show I want to. No, it's not. Has nothing to do with that. But by God, if I'm on a list and I get votes and I win, I earned it every damn time I go into a
you are
ring.
going to show up at that show, and you're going to put out everything you've got.
And so,
and that's
don't judge me, and don't say this is an infomercial for me. I earned it. You raise your game.
And I'm as strong a supporter of this method. This is something that I've pushed and wanted to talk about more here. I'm not saying that Ryan doesn't want to talk about it, but
I am worried
that
that is what people are going to say, that this was an infomercial for Ryan to judge every show in the country and whatever like that.
Well, so be it.
And that's not what this is about. But again,
it is what it is.
If you put that system in there and I'm on there and I win, then I earned it. And finally, the last part on this deal, if you are the kid or you are the family member or even the guys and gals selling them, helping, whatever, that kid's not going to make that decision without asking somebody, hey, here's the list. What do we think? So everybody's going to kind of get input on it. It may just be one vote, but also you can go to your other people and say, hey, let's all group vote. Let's whatever. I don't care how they do it. They're going to have a voice when they've never had a voice before. And even if the person they picked didn't get voted in, as long as it's transparent and all this, handled the right way, they're still going to say, hey, I had a part in the decision-making process of who got to sort this show. And there's not any shows right now that I am aware of that do this. I mean, there's some that are starting to think about it, some that are implementing it maybe for the first time this year, etc. And I'm not talking about a group of junior board members of 12. I'm talking about every kid that has a damn animal in the show gets a vote.
Absolutely.
They're going to be happy, and they're going to come back even if their guy or gal they voted for didn't win, because they had a voice. Their opinion mattered. And if it doesn't go well for them under whoever got voted, maybe they will get together with their friends. They will go and try to get the most one. But they're not going to be nearly as upset as if just a handful of people that have been deciding who judged that show for 20 years did it, because they got a say. So this benefits everybody on every level, from exhibitor, breeder, broker, helper, whatever. It makes the judges better, and the show management gets kudos for giving the people that come to that show a voice. So again, if you're going to tell me that this doesn't work, I need you to tell me where it doesn't work, other than the fact you don't want to give up the control into the people that actually deserve a voice and a say in it. That's it.
And there's a couple things I've got to add to this. Stop and think about it. And this hit me this last weekend. And Ryan, I don't go out and judge as many shows. I just can't get away to do as many as you are. But when I do, I stop and think about how much effort we took to take my kids to a show, from the buying of the animal or the raising the animal, everything that we all of those that are listening know go into it, to go into that ring for that 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be. That is a lot of effort that we have to, as a superintendent of a show, make everything we can financially, that's financially possible, to make that ring and that environment right. And that judge needs to feel that responsibility and think about how much effort went into this. Let's give them everything we got, not just to place the animals right, but to make those kids feel good. And think about this, the system that Ryan and I are talking about right now, allowing at whatever level you think you can, the
You
exhibitor
still
input.
have control as a show manager because you get the list.
You do. You can come up with that list to begin with, but think about the level of self-correcting this process can have on the industry. This fixes, Ryan, does this over time, I'm not saying immediately, but over time, when the exhibitors are paying more attention to who's judging and talking to their friends and who they had a good experience under, we're talking about how do we fix the politics? How do we fix who's qualified? How do we avoid? Here's something we haven't talked about, and this is going to probably get some hate mail. It bothers me that once a judge, for whatever reason, is hired by somebody at one of the larger shows, gets that larger show,
they get to do every single one in the nation because they did one.
And it does not matter if it was good, bad, or indifferent. It's monkey see, monkey do. They hired him there, so I'm going to hire him. It's a safe way out. They've already judged this one.
This person judged the Kansas State Fair, so they're qualified to do anything.
That does not even mean they did a good job.
And I get it, but that was what I was talking about. If you're a younger person, you fight your ass off to get in the door one time, and then you know it's going to happen again, regardless of how you did or didn't do, or whatever. But yeah, you're right. That is the biggest flaw in the entire judge selection system. And over the years, I've had so many people come, there needs to be a list, and there needs to be a ranking, and there needs to be all that. Okay, but it goes back. No matter what you do, again, a small group of people are going to decide how to rank those judges, or who makes the official list, or who does all that. That's not where it needs to be. It needs to be the people that are putting the money, the time, and the effort in this, and actually have the animals out there showing. That's who. This is ultimately that list, or that official list, or that ranking these judges. They're doing it because they have the power to vote on who they want to see do the show. And no, it is not immediate, but over time, yes, it will make judges on every level do a better job.
Accountability.
Yes. Where there is none. There is
no.
And I'm not hating on anybody, any judge. There is no accountability in judging, and there is no accountability pretty much in show management.
Nope, agreed. The industry's been so good, it still continues irregardless, but we can always do better. I challenge the show management. Let's find the simple, easy, clean way to implement something like this, whether it's putting those names on the way card or whatever it is. I know some have sent surveys out after the show. I don't think so. Some people aren't going to look at their email. Each person, whether they're signing up for their breeding animal with registration papers or going through the classification, find whatever. Every show is going to be a little bit different, but find whatever you can to make sure each exhibitor has that vote that is showing there that year for the next year's judge. And if you have to, I'm not even completely opposed. If that exhibitor has 2 animals, maybe they get 2 votes. I'm not as worried about that. It still over time will take care of itself, but make it clean, simple, but and almost required, I guess, is maybe, and again, I don't know if I'd go that far, but closer to that than not, that when they turn something in, they have to circle one of their opinions on who they would like to be there next year. And for the love of the gay, please announce who that judge is once you have that contract or that confirmation. And I'm hearing this again as we start shows up this spring. People are asking me who's judging this show and that show, and I get back to saying, well, this state or this jackpot series doesn't want to announce it because it may give somebody a political advantage. That is complete bullshit. Who has a political advantage are the few that actually know who's judging, and they can target what animals are going to. And I promise you, there are a handful that will know. So when you don't put it out there for the world to know, you're creating that uneven playing field that we talked about earlier. Make the playing field level. Let the people decide, okay, if this is the judge at this show, when we're scheduling things, I think that judge is going to give me a fair shake. I think they're going to give these kids a positive experience. I'm going there versus down the road to some other judge. It's very simple, people. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Ryan, are you good on that one? I have one last thing that I need to mention.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I truly think every aspect of this that we're talking about is important. I think that is a game changer that over time, it does nothing but make every point and part of livestock exhibition stronger.
Absolutely. There's one thing that comes into play, and we focused a lot on the judges here at the end, but we can go back to the ring itself, the rules, all those things. Well, some of these things on how to set up the ring and even hiring a judge from a ways away come into play, and that's fundraising. And it's not fun. Nobody usually likes doing it. But I promise you, if you can get out there and get those donations and fundraise well ahead of time, and guess what? The more positive experience those exhibitors have at the show, the more feedback the community gets, all those things, it all builds upon itself and it makes it easier. So get the fundraising done, do everything you possibly can, because that is a stumbling block on how good of an environment you could put on. You can't do it without help from others. And I encourage those out there. And I know breeders get hit as much or more than anybody. Feed companies get hit. The show supply trailers get hit. Well, as Ryan can attest to, we're getting sponsors, Ryan, for the BTR JLA from just individuals that may not have a business even tied to the show industry, but because they grew up in it and they want to give back. So let's look wider, look further out there for who may be willing to do this. So fundraising is something that's a challenge. I wish I had an answer for it, but I know it's harder in some parts of the country than others. But in certain parts of the country, and I can think of certain county fairs that have had phenomenal sales year after year, and it almost becomes part of the culture that is just the norm, that the businesses are going to donate to that. That's something that's happened forever. Once you get that established, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, fundraising is something that is not easy to do. Nobody likes to do it, but it will drastically improve. I mean, money makes the world go round, people. Let's just be honest. I mean, that's just how it is. And unless you're Joe Biden, I guess. But yeah, it's great help in so many different ways of giving a positive experience to your exhibitors, from getting a judge that's from, a top-notch judge that may not be very close, that the travel is going to be more, to improving the awards, improving the ring, the sound system, etc.
So Ryan, I'm ready for question and answer if you are.
Yeah, I want to give out a shout out to another BTR Jelly sponsor, and it's Leonard Truck and Trailer, and they're the biggest sponsor that we have. They sponsored on every single level, but I think what's more important to me on this is Clint has come to us in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know when we're going to get it all worked out and ironed out, but he is putting together a swag store for the BTR JLA, and he's doing this just to help us have another source of income to help us pay for the awards, because again, sanctioning was free this year, and so we've got to, other than sponsors and membership, that's the only way that we make this happen. And again, I don't have a big staff, but it does require people getting paid every month, to make this go round. And so everything that Clint has done, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And Leonard Truck and Trailer is dedicated to providing the best service, selection, and value. Their efforts are focused on meeting and exceeding their customers' expectations every day, because they know that their continued success relies on their ability to satisfy every customer. With the largest selection of trailers in the nation, our on-the-spot financing, custom vinyl department, in-house warranty department, and comprehensive parts and service department, it is apparent why they have proven themselves over and over again to be the only place you need to stop for all your trailer needs. So if you're looking for a trailer, please look no further than Leonard Truck and Trailer. And again, thank you for everything you're doing for this organization.
Greatly appreciated. So when I was taking those hours and hours of sorting through question and answer, Ryan,
Yeah.
I tried to pull some up that I thought might relate to the topic. Since we knew what the topic was earlier today that we were going to talk about, I was able to go through and pull questions that somewhat relate to it. The first one comes from Kim. Dale and Ryan, I'm a show manager, and I've learned so much from listening to your podcast. I bet she listens to this one. It's going to be good. I would like to know your preference on jackpot shows showing off the trailer or setting up space for them to pin/stall in the barn. Thank you both for all you do.
I think that you should have an option for both. I think that there are a lot of people that do not have the capability of showing off your trailer, and so they're going to need space in the barn. I think that if you do have the capability to show off your trailer, then that is what you would prefer to do, and that's why you have gone the extra mile in getting the setup that you did to do that. And so I find it self-destructive, I guess is the best word, when they don't allow people to show off their trailer. And so that would be my thing. Again, I'm going to say this, and this goes back to this podcast, this topic. If you're going to say that you can't show off the trailer, then by God, nobody shows off the trailer. Because I'm telling you, in recent history, at a big show, nobody was supposed to show off the trailer, and certain people got to, and it doesn't work that way. So, again, I think it's fine if you're going to allow them to do that. I think there are people that have gone that step to make that happen, to have that set up, because that's what they prefer to do. It frees up barn space for other exhibitors. Other exhibitors aren't as crowded, but whatever way you're going to do it, if you're going to say no showing off the trailers, then by God, don't let them show off the trailers.
Real simple. Back to that rules. If you have in place, enforce it. Period. Done. I have nothing to add to that one, Kim. I hope that helps, and it makes absolute perfect sense. The next question comes to us from Dave. Ryan and Dale, I'm a volunteer at our county show, and I help with anything that needs done. I'm happy to assist for the good of the cause, but it seems like each year the fair hires a judge from the next county over, or one that is somewhat local. As you can imagine, this opens the door for many issues. Mm-hmm. How do you suggest I approach the situation? I think we covered it already, didn't we?
Well, I think he's asking what he does, and you just go and say that to whoever hires the judges. Say, hey, I'm here. I'm a volunteer. I want the show to succeed, but this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing. This is what the problem is, and take that to whoever is in charge or has power to make change and all that. And again, don't do it in a hostile way. I think that question was perfect. Just go relay that to whoever that person is. And I think, people a lot of my friends make fun of me because I judge as many county fairs as I do. And I think the reason why that I am way more open to taking county fairs is because of situations just like this person has described. I'm not going to tell you that every county fair is a great time and experience, all that other stuff, but I do know that a lot of county fairs say, well, we can't get so-and-so because they won't come. Or so we're going to get the person 2 counties over because we know they'll show up. They can't say that about me because I've made it very clear that if I'm available and I can get expenses covered, I will. And I guess that's my little part in trying to contribute to making this deal work, because there's just no other way in saying it. County fairs where more people get screwed than anywhere else. And I've been on the receiving end of that. I know everybody that's listened to this sometimes has. And so if I can go and judge a county fair and do that and make that experience positive, even if it's not the best experience I've ever had, if I can make it positive for those kids and they know that I don't know anybody there, that's just me doing my part. But I think for this, what you said, Dave, take that to whoever's in charge and can help you implement change. Say just what you said in that question.
Excellent. That's good. The next question comes to us from Kelsey. Many shows I attend have a Pee-wee, junior, intermediate, and senior division for showmanship, and they give out awards for such. Do you think there should be an overall showman selected?
I think it is very cool when there is an overall showman selected. I think probably the reason that more shows don't do it is because it's a time factor. And again, I know they say, well, you wouldn't think that it would take that time, but it's going to take another 5-10 minutes if you're someone like me at max. There'll be some people that would take 30 minutes to decide, whatever. And I think that is the thing. I think it's a very cool deal if you do select an overall champion showman. I like it. I understand why people don't do it. And a lot of shows have different, like if it's a 2-ring show, one person does 2 of the divisions, the other person does the other 2 divisions, then they would have to come together and whatever. I get why it doesn't happen more often. I see the pros and cons of it. I think it is a cool thing to have.
Agreed. I'm with you, but I think each individual show has to make that decision themselves. And generally speaking, if you're going to have it, you're going to give out a banner or a belt buckle. So
right.
there's more financing or more support that we need from donors. So Ryan, I've enjoyed this episode a great deal. I hope it gets some downloads and some listens because I think there's a lot of good in here. And please take what we're saying from a manner we're trying to make this better. We're not trying to be critical. And I know sometimes it may come across that way. I know that if you're sitting in there as a show manager, it's easier to say, well, wow, they're really picking on something we've done for a long time. Well, don't look at it that way. Let's look at, well, yeah, the industry has been this way for a long time, but I can step up and make change and make it right. And we've had a lot of questions, and Ryan alluded to it. I get questions all the time. What can we do to make these events better? And a lot of them are specifically focused. How do we get the right judges in, or who selects those judges, or where's that list, or all those things? This is the only single solution long-term that I can come up with that addresses just about each and every one of the complaints that you hear from every show in the country regarding a judge.
I agree. And like I said, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse or anything because we've talked this a lot. I don't know if we ever went into this detail on it, but I'm just telling you because so many people do contact me about this specific part right here. Like, I don't know if it'll be 6 months. I don't know if it's going to be a year, but I'm telling you the time is coming because 2 or 3 people have already talked to me about it, where there are going to be petitions out there to change the way judges are selected. And so it just takes a couple of you at a show of great magnitude or size to try this, implement this, and then the rest will have to fall in line. But somebody's got to do it first.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you. Enjoyed the discussion today. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?